Hi and welcome back to MDriven. Today I'm going to talk about data migration, moving your data around from where you have it in files, XML files or databases in the cloud or locally, etc. There always comes a time when you want to move your data around to debug or upgrade or whatever. So for this I thought I should start with an site I have which has some data. And this site runs against MDriven server. And I can start that system and in the debugger to see if I have stuff there, which I do. Suppose now that I want to have this data locally. This now resides on a MDriven server in Azure. So for this purpose we introduce a new tool called Migrate button down here. So our system is started against this one. Pressing Migrate. So what Migrate does, basically it says this: you have many options for persistence. Options are good, but they complicate. So maybe you started out with XML persistence, but now you want to run in turnkey. Or maybe you run in turnkey, but you want to go from built-in DB to SQL Server. Maybe you want to do something we didn't even think of. So this is not for millions of objects, and you can give it a cap value if you have a large database and you just want to sample it with some data. I know this is not very big, so I'm gonna increase the cap and be sure to get everything. And it asks me to save this somewhere, and I'm gonna save it in a file called data dump. That will be an XML file. So what the tool does is runs through all the classes and also the associations in the classes, and it sets the associations, and if you have had any delayed fetched attributes, those will be fetched efficiently as well. So now we have the file data dump. It became 6 megabytes, and once you have such a file, you will probably restart your model towards a different system or a different persistence, or having changed something on the server. So we don't want to push this one straight away, because that would insert the same objects into the existing server, and since this tool treats everything as new, you would get doublets, and we don't want that. So I'm going to close this one, and I'm gonna save to an XML file instead. So let's see if I call this local storage, and I start against this one. If I were to open that one up and see task definitions, okay, it says sync not active because it's an XML file, and this refresh button is in the way. So I'm not sure why that is, but usually helps by restarting it. Yeah, now it's gone. So I don't have any task definitions in this local file. since the local storage is only 12 kilobytes. Okay, I press migrate, and the idea is to pour things into this file then. So I'm gonna use the second button here. This button reads data in an XML file and creates them in the started system. So the data dump, and it read 2289 objects, and I can save those. Having done that, I can see that my local storage file grew. So it seems to have worked as expected. If I now run the debugger, I can see that I actually have data. And everything works like pictures, and all the data you can have in your model will be transferred this way. So, cool. Let's try to, if we were to run the turnkey prototyper on this model, so running turnkey locally. I'm going to start that one. And it said, probably because I already had it started on another site, so I'm going to start it again. So this is the web server signaling that it's alive, and the site came up. Okay, now when I run turnkey, the data is actually stored in a XML file. When I run it locally, it gets the same name as the model that you run, and it's appended with prototype data XML. So we could actually take that file name would like to pour it into this file name. Let's try that. If I were to open that and start the system against this one and migrate again and read data in data dump and saving it, I could see that this one also grew to 6 megabytes. Super. If I now, let's see, I'm gonna restart the local core, and I get an error. The singleton has multiple instances. And this is sort of expected, because the singletons are created automatically whenever they are addressed. And now when we have dumped in data from another source, of course we get those singletons as well. Of course we could filter them away, but we're not sure which one you want to keep. So I guess we need to clean this up ourselves. That's probably something we can do in the debugger, as we have started against that XML file. Let's see, this is singleton, bring up a seeker, search it, and I have two. I'm gonna drop that one. Let's see, I think I had another singleton here. Two of that as well. Alright, I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna restart the turnkey core because I'm not sure if it rereads the file, just because I wanted to. So now it's started, and it runs locally against a XML file, and hopefully I can see that it has, it has the data I was looking for, and especially the let's see, I made this to switch when I made it smaller. Task definitions, so these are the ones that I wanted to have all the pictures and things like that. Okay, so even if this tool is really simple, it's very versatile, and you can pour data from one place to another. Of course, there's limitations in how much you can move. It's much better to, if you have the possibility to, for example, download the compact database from Turnkey and pull them locally. And it's a good tool when you want to move data around. So what we've also done in this release is to introduce more SQL options in the system prototyper. So what we can do now is things like connect to an SQLite database. So that's the path. The connection string for this one is actually that you just type data source and then a file path. So let's see, if I were to take this file path and say that my SQLite DB, and I want to have MDriven server on that. It's a bit different how the keys are stored. That's the connection string, and that is valid. And then I basically can create the database, the schema. It says 19 tables. That's fine. And now I have a small SQL SQLite database to work with, and I can start persistence against that one like that. And since I started persistence against that one, I guess I can pour data into it with the data dump I have. Yeah, that was fast. And save that. And since I have it there, I can actually run the debugger against it to see if I have any task definitions. And of course I do. We also added the SQL compact. And this connection string is a bit more complicated, so I just I'll leave it to you to just provide a path name. And basically we can do much the same thing. I'm not sure if it must exist, but let's say it's called SQL compact DB, and the extension for compact DBs are STF. So if I have that, my file path, and I put that one there, and test it, and it's valid, and I create the schema in the database, again 19 tables, and oh, actually, when we run it against in MDriven server, you know, we have 3 different databases within the same SQL compact. We have the admin database, and we have the A0 database, you know, the thing we write in the cloud dialog. And then there's actually A1 and A2 as well, so it's 4 in total. But if I want to run this against if I have a SQL database that comes from a MDriven server, I need to put the multi-tenant prefix here, because that's how it works when we have multiple schemas in one database. We have a prefix for them. So it's A0 underscore or admin underscore. But currently we just pour it in the root schema. So if I'm going to start the system against this one, it says SQL compact and the debugger. And there's no data. But lucky for me, I have the migration tool and I can read the data from the data dump file and save it and check again. Yeah, so hopefully you can find some use for this kind of simplification of moving data around. Yeah, I think that was about everything I planned to say today. Let me check my list. So what we did is the SQLite, which is a really simple database. And we have the migrate tool, and we have the SQL compact DB. And also I mentioned the multi-tenant thing. So, good. Have fun. Thank you for listening.